you have to be all in on this business, right? That's just what it's going to take. Our frontline team members, right? We the same motivation that I received as a coach, we try to inject in them, because they are the real miracle workers of Primitiv, and why Primitiv is able to be in 90 stores. And for our store to be doing the kind of numbers it's doing. So, I think that's all, they say get with a company that's all in. And if you go, you need to be all in. And if you're an investor, you need to be all in.
What's up, Rob? How you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you on the show. And, I think for a lot of people, they probably heard about you and, of course, Primitiv and, Calvin. But, just really want to start off, tell me about yourself. How did you get started in cannabis, and what made you decide to make a career in the cannabis industry?
Yeah, I think, my journey in cannabis goes back to my playing days. I actually tore my pec in 2008 and had season-ending surgery. I made a decision then to not take the prescribed painkillers that they were giving me to help me through that surgery, and actually switch to cannabis. I felt like from that injury, I came back stronger, and used cannabis throughout the rest of my career really to help me recover. I was able to build a 9-year career out of it, right? So very passionate for cannabis and how it changed my family's life. And then as I was becoming an entrepreneur, cannabis was always a part of my recovery after I was playing days. And as I was becoming an entrepreneur, obviously, I saw opportunity in cannabis, wanted to be a part of this industry because I just believed in the healing powers of the plant. My partner, Calvin, or Megatron, as you guys might know, had similar thoughts on that. So we partnered up and built Primitiv. And the name Primitiv came from, we believe that the medicine that cannabis provides came from a more simple time. So we believe it is a primitive plant, but obviously has a lot of healing power. In the way that we've been able to treat ourselves and live the way we want to live. So really just passionate about cannabis in general.
I really like the story of how the name Primitiv comes from the history of the plant itself, because I know it's it goes back all the way to history when you talk about early medicine, as far as human civilization. And I used to be an activist back in the day when I was in college, trying to legalize cannabis in North Carolina, actually, which is where I went to school at UNC. And at that time, I was really trying to connect the dots between how it really started out as a plant and really like a medicine and a food, right? And it eventually became kind of wrapped up in all the stigma, wrapped up in all this hate, and used as kind of a weapon to suppress certain groups. And I think it's really changed, and people like you and Calvin have really helped change the narrative in the last decade or so. So I'm super happy to talk to you and really break down how Primitiv got started, and also the brand. Since you've joined the industry, I know Primitiv started out in Michigan and Detroit, and you guys have opened up more facilities. Can you tell me more about your first facility, the focus of it, and then also where the brand is now?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, this was a true startup for me and Calvin, and it really being our first venture together in the industry that was brand new, in an industry that we really didn't know much about, right? So we definitely had a learning curve to get started. We started off with our facility in Weberville. It's 12,000 square feet. We have about 15 team members that manage 1,700 plants. Also, we have manufacturing out of that facility. And that's been online for 3 or 4 years, man. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done there. We've continued to improve ourselves, improve our product and the way we do things. Our store in Niles, Michigan has been open for over a year at this point now. That store as well, always not slow growth, but incremental growth. We've had that over the year, and we're starting to hit some of those goals that we set out to do in the beginning. Actually, smashing through a lot of those goals that we start to do in the beginning. So those are our main two facilities, but that does give us our full vertical here in Michigan. And we built the Primitv brand as well as some other brands that are coming out this year. Kind of our house of brands. We've been building that as well. So, in Michigan, I think we're also from a wholesale level, we're in 90 stores now. So in the last 6 months, we've had some really, really good growth. And, now we're getting opportunities outside of Michigan. One of them is in Utah, where we plan on launching our brand there in September. And we also just announced that, we are partnering with an old teammate of ours, Gosler Sherless, and his group in Boston to have our first Boston dispensary actually in downtown Boston. So really excited about that and the work that we're going to be able to do in Massachusetts. Yeah, man, we just been, like we always say in our business, we can just, keep stacking good days on top of good days. And now we're starting to look up and see the fruits of that labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the last year in cannabis was a tough year for everybody. And, there's, obviously a lot of the negative press, right, about cannabis stocks, but also the price compression in a lot of different states. I guess, how did that affect you guys over there in Michigan? And, how has it really changed as we go deeper into 2023?
Well, I think the interesting, thing about us is that, because it took us a little longer to get out of the gate than most companies because it was so new to us and it was such a big undertaking for us, that we had to really slow play a lot of things, right? So like a lot of groups, we didn't get to go out and, go acquire, 10 dispensaries and have, a big growth facility, right? We had to start small and had to have incremental steps along the way. I think for us, that's helped us tremendously because now we have a business that is self-contained in what we do, and we're able to hit certain numbers along with where we positioned ourselves in the market with our brand. So yeah, I think everybody feels it a little bit as prices continue to drop and there's a race to the bottom. I think for us, not that we're immune to that, but I just think the way we're positioned, we've been able to hold our ground a little bit longer. And I believe ultimately, we'll be able to sustain this storm we're in as an industry because of that. So, obviously you want business to be better, but I'm definitely happy where our team has continued to push our bar even through these tough times. And yeah, it's a struggle for a lot of companies. We're seeing a lot of stuff in the news right now, but I think for us, just continuing to move the ball forward, a little bit each day has really helped us.
Yeah, definitely. Because, the headlines aren't, the full story. And, after, obviously I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs and operators and like yourself, and, the day-to-day is obviously not as talked about in terms of, there's a lot of wins every day. And, ultimately, there's a lot that goes into making a good cannabis brand. So I guess in terms of, your audience, what's the key to your success in establishing a connection with your audience and your brand?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, in the beginning, it was really important for me and Calvin to really be authentic in who we are, right? And bring that to the table. We didn't want to be pretenders, right? Guys that were getting into cannabis and had long history of cannabis and knew all cannabis. So we just really stuck to our guns and what we wanted to do. And that's really tell our story, like I told earlier in our talk here, about where cannabis came from in our life, and really try to change the stigma to show people like, you can use cannabis and still have that Hall of Fame career. You can use cannabis and still build a company that has 50 team members. And really try to just change that stigma with people. And then, with the launch of Primitiv Performance, which is our performance line that's tied to our, tied to our company, it's really the best of both worlds. It's really our football world and the products we would use when we play ball from a performance and recovery standpoint, and mixing our business now with cannabis and other minor cannabinoids and mixing those all together. And that's where Primitiv Performance is born. So, Yeah, I think that's the most important thing for us is that we just stick to our guns and stick to who we are, and tell our story through an authentic lens.
Mhm. Yeah, and tell me about, your new line, your new products at Primitive Performance, and what the goal is there. I know it's mostly CBD products. Is that right?
Yeah, it's mostly CBD. There are THC products that we do share in our store and in the Michigan market. They're starting to trickle out there, but this is really for us. It was our chance to really get a product that we can sell nationally and through e-commerce. A lot of our press was coming from a national standpoint, obviously with Cowboys platform and the Hall of Fame, right? I just did a couple days in New York, with ESPN, things like that. But a lot of people really couldn't experience our products and what we wanted to do because they just weren't in Michigan, when we do our business. So, we partnered with SIP, which is a company that we have been in talks with for years on creating this performance line, and the things they were doing with got us really excited and what the future of cannabis was going to be. And we saw an opportunity to build a rehydration solution that they had at the market, so we rebranded that. So imagine like Pedialyte or Liquid IV, but having different cannabinoids in it. And then our topical, which is we're really excited about because we use it every day on our bumps and bruises. But we think what we've built with our topical and the anti-inflammatory properties that we're trying to achieve there. I think that it's really going to help some people, and we're getting really, really great feedback from it. And us ourselves are users of the product. So right, who better to be the guinea pig on that and to try something that with us to have all the bumps and bruises that we have. So that's really where we've taken our products. Also in the Michigan market, we've got a lot of new things coming online. We got gummies coming online here this month under a brand called High Grade, powered by Primitiv. And I told our flower and everything else we got going on. So we got a lot of great things going on right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the audience you guys have, and that's definitely something you can't you take for granted. And I think should help you weather the storm a lot better than those that don't have that. And I think in terms of your overall sales strategy, I know you mentioned you guys do wholesales and you guys have dispensaries, but now that you've have a whole network of people that you sell to, I guess how did you guys establish those relationships with those dispensaries when you get started, and how do you nurture those relationships for any kind of entrepreneur listening?
Yeah, I think the one thing that's difficult in the Michigan market is really you're competing with so many brands, right, and so many great brands. And for us, we had to use our competitive advantage, and that's really just our platform. So I think we're in 90 stores. I don't know how many meet and greets we've done in those particular stores, but me and Calvin really just put on the work, and the street team really just put in the work to make sure that we were there. We were making sure we were touching the bud tenders, and they knew that we were invested in this brand. We were making sure we were touching the people that came and visited at that meet and greet, and just really telling our story and signing autographs and doing whatever we could just to show them that, hey, we're serious about this. This isn't an athlete brand that we just stick our name on and throw it out there. No, this is, we eat, sleep, and breathe this, and we think we're bringing something authentic to you guys. So really had to put the work in there, and quite honest, that work is never done. And now that we're expanding outside of state, the work is going to get a little bit more. So that's okay. That just means that we're growing. And we just gotta keep stacking, keep moving. But absolutely, we're just not going to be all hustled. We're going to just continue to work and work and work. And like I said, we're starting to see the fruits of that labor.
Yeah, definitely. So like for any, I guess cultivators or people that have cultivation licenses listening, which are a lot of people in our audience, let's talk about the kind of growing techniques and best practices. I mean, like, what details are important to you and your team that goes into the success of your product and your flower?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that we've continued to grow. I think for us was really finding expertise and people from outside of our company that can really help steer the ship. For instance, we did a partnership with Foch as we wanted to go LED last year. So we partnered with Foch, and their team has just been great with us installing new lights, but really helping us really dial in our practices in our rooms. We partner with a group, Trilogene, that is giving us some exclusive genetics that we're starting to run in our facility. They've been very helpful. Eros is another company that we have partnered with as well that is helping us as far as making sure our air in our rooms are as clean as they can possibly be. So, for us, we've been just really bringing other great minds into the room, and not being intimidated by that, but really leaning on their expertise and really creating a plan for our team to follow. And our cultivation director, Brandon, is he's best in class in my opinion, and we've continued to grow. Not just as a cultivation, but as a company because of some of that early work that he put in. So, just really trying to put the best minds in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I really like that mindset where you stay humble and you kind of invite the smartest people outside of the room and actually bring them in, and not just be intimidated by them but collaborate. And I think that's more needed in this industry where everybody's so hyper competitive, right? There's so many brands, there's so many, and every state has got its own market and competition. And I guess now that you guys are expanding to Utah, and you mentioned Massachusetts and Boston, how have you guys been able to kind of take your experiences in Michigan and apply that to these other markets?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest competitive advantage we may have going into new markets is, when you cut your teeth in a place like Michigan, that it was just crazy with cannabis, and you're able to continue to thrive even when the market is bad. When you go into those other markets and you really like look under the hood, you can see that, a lot of things that are happening in Michigan are going to happen in those other places. And we should have a little bit of a leg up because we know what's coming and we know how to thrive when that happens. So really just coming up with a plan to be able to implement it, and be able to bring the same model and stuff that we did here in Michigan and bring it to those areas, obviously with little, nuances, little differences, but, really just trying to be smart the second time around, the third time around, after, really going through the fire here in Michigan, but, still being able to stand up. So, just looking forward to those opportunities. We spent a lot of time in Massachusetts last week or, last weekend, and, already seeing things where I think we can obviously, have a leg up in some situations. So, just looking forward to getting started there.
Yeah. And I guess, aside from those two other projects, what other, I guess, states and markets are you eyeing? Are you guys thinking about international? Or are you guys thinking about, some of the more established markets like California or Oregon?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing for us in partnership and why Utah and Massachusetts is these are people that we've had relationships with. And, as we were getting out of state, we wanted to be comfortable, and we just didn't want to roll out to anybody. So not only are these first JVs important for us as far as, expanding our business, but really for us to have, learn from what does it look like out of state, what kind of, team do we need to be successful in those states? So this next year or, the rest of this year, really understanding it and dial those things in will be good for us. But I'm an Ohio boy. I'm actually in Ohio right now, getting ready to tape a pregame show for the Italian Football League. So, I'm a Buckeye at heart. So, I have to get back to Ohio some way, somehow. This is just home for me. So that's what I'm going to be working on over the next few months. Is finding some folks in Ohio that, would be good to represent our brand and manufacture for us. So, Ohio for sure. Florida is another one just because I needed some place to go when it's cold up here in Michigan. So, we're working on all those things, man. But, just really enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, and letting the game come to us a little bit, instead of chasing. I think that's where our mindset is, right? Just kind of let it come to us.
What are your thoughts on the cannabis industry now versus, when you guys first started, 2 years ago, and how has your mindset kind of changed? I know, probably when you guys started, it was way different than, now where you've accumulated all this knowledge on the market, but also on, the plant itself and the relationship with different consumers.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, it's like the gold rush or anything else, right? There was a lot of optimism on what could be done. You had a lot of people that jumped in, with both feet trying to get it done. We were one of them. But just like in the gold rush, right? Everybody didn't come home with gold, right? There were some people that just didn't get to succeed, right? Just like there are in this NFL or life or business or anything else, right? And it's all about the strong surviving at this point, right? And that's just what life is, right? And there was always going to be a correction in the market. And I think we've seen the trend from not only Canada, but California, Michigan, and we're going to see the rest of them, right? So really it's just about really just following the trend and being invested to the point where, you can't lose if you don't quit. All right. And I think that's the one thing that we carry with us all the time. And it served us well. And like I said, because of that, our team is continuing to grow, not as fast as we want, but it's growing at the pace that is needed. Yeah, that's my thing in the market, right? It's still tough times. It's going to be some tough times in a lot of markets. I think that's where we are, right? We're just fighting through the storm.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, given your experience, for anybody that's, trying to enter the market now, right? Trying to join the cannabis industry or applying for their first license in one of these new states, or maybe starting a job at a cultivation facility, what would be the best piece of advice for that person?
You have to be all in on this business, right? That's just what it's going to take. Our frontline team members, right? We the same motivation that I received as a coach, we try to inject in them, because they are the real miracle workers of Primitiv, and why Primitiv is able to be in 90 stores. And for our store to be doing the kind of numbers it's doing. So, I think that's all, they say, get with a company that's all in. And if you go, you need to be all in. And if you're an investor, you need to be all in.
One question I had for you, definitely, and probably our audience has, is in terms of, your working relationship with Calvin. Obviously you guys are, good friends and, former teammates. And, when my partner, Mike, had previously met with you guys, in other meetings, he mentioned how down to earth, Calvin was, and, how surprising that was given his reputation. And I'm sure, it's no surprise to you, but just, can you talk a little bit about, your working relationship and your dynamic, and, how you guys differ, but, how that helps you guys as a business partner?
Yeah. When, the vision I always had back in the day was that, I was playing with a group of guys and we were able to win together. We were able to lose together. We were able to, work through, tough situations. And I always just thought, like, wow, these guys could all be great partners potentially because of those things. Right. And Calvin is just, an awesome guy to work with because he is humble, because, he knows what it takes to be the very best. Not just in football, but in anything. Like, he knows what it takes. And I think for us, really, we know how to play our roles. Just like, I wasn't getting all the love from the sports writers when we were playing ball, but I had my little piece, and that was fine. And I think, him being on stage has elevated where I am than I was when I was playing. But it's been great to work with. He's been great to work with, and on top of that, right, he's a friend for life. And it's real cool that we've been able to do something like this. And the thoughts we were having back when we were playing, we were able to make those things come true. The cool thing about that is it extends to other players. So the Boston deal we were just talking with is actually a partnership with another former Lion, Gazer Sherilis, up there. So, the message and what we're trying to do, the motto is spreading, and it's spreading, not only to me and Calvin, but now there's 3, and we're working on 4 and 5. So, those are the cool things that we're starting to see in our business when I talk about the fruits of our labor. Like that's really what we were chasing, and we caught it.